Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start now since it's now 10 o'clock. We got several online and several here, so that's great. I'm glad you guys have made it this way. We are 2/3 or 3/4, I should say, the way done. We're going to finish up some of the listing things today, some of the options you have for making sure your listings are going to kill it out there, and all the things that the system will do for you. And then starting next week, we get into, I think is probably the most, I shouldn't say most important, it's all important, but this is when we're going to talk about the routines that are going to help you to keep that business coming in and keep it going and all that kind of stuff that really is about, it's really the difference between good ideas and good functions within a system and all the things that we're trying to do, but that we don't do consistently very well. Everybody know what I'm talking about when it comes to that? We had a team meeting this morning with my team here, and I was comparing what we're trying to do with what I do with my exercise. Like, I used to go to the gym a lot when I was younger, and I look back now and I think of all the hours that I wasted in the gym. Anybody waste hours in the gym? Never do that? No. Like, no. I know, I'm doing it wrong, yeah. But I did, because a lot of times, first of all, I didn't have a good routine, right? It's part of that routine. So I just show up because I know I'm supposed to do it. Like, we show up to work every day because we know we're supposed to do it, right? How many of you show up every day, but you feel like at the end of the day, like, did I get anything done decently today, right? Did anything really happen the way it was supposed to happen? It happens to me, yeah. But I'm using this analogy of this workout because during, like a lot of you probably did during COVID, I subscribed to, it's called Body. Have you heard of that? It used to be called beachbody.com. I was like, I'm never going to have a beach body again, but you know, that's what it was called. But what it was cool is it had all of these coaches, right? These trainers, and they had these different programs. So, you know, I've done all of them several times now, you know, whether it's P90X or Insanity or right now I'm doing the Lift More. You heard of those, right? So, but what I love about those programs is, like, literally all I have to do is, and I even set it up in my room, because routines are best done when you don't have to think too much about it and you know exactly what you need to do and you get it done quickly, right? And things that take a lot of effort. Like when I would go to the gym, I rolled myself out of bed or what, you know, whenever I'm going to go, get dressed, drive to the gym, be around all those other sweaty people, you know, try to get into the, you know, whatever I'm going to do, waste a whole lot of time, look at my phone most of the time, you know, all that kind of stuff. Whereas when I go and do a workout, I mean, each one of them, if you've ever done it, they have like 6 weeks of this program or 10 or 12 or whatever it is. Literally, I hit play and then I just do what they tell me to do. And it goes by fast. It's like 30, 40 minutes later, I'm sweating like crazy. I got a really good, whether it's HIIT or plyo or weight or whatever it is, and I can mix it up, which is good for you anyway. I'm done. And I can, the rest of the day, I can feel like, hey, I got my workout in. It's part of my morning routine. And then in the evening when I come back, I like to do an exercise. So I bought a Nordic track. You've ever done Peloton or Nordic track? I have a Nordic track with the screen. Literally, I hit 2 buttons and I'm riding a bike with someone in Japan or in Costa Rica or in, you know, all over the place. So it's engaging, which is important. But my bike actually changes the tension and moves up and down as I'm watching the person riding with me. Or you can be in a class and they're telling me when to stand, when to sit, you know, and they're playing music to it. I guess what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to routines, when things are just given to you, but they still require work. They still require you to do what it is that is going to help you to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. But the easier it is for you to be able to do that, the more likely you're going to do it, and you're going to do it consistently. And if you think about it, the best things in life that are good for you don't happen even though we remember the big moments, it's the little things that we do every single day that actually make the biggest impact in our lives. You know that, right? If I want to get in shape, if I work out 5 or 6 days a week for 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, and I get it done and I follow what the coach who knows what they're doing or trainer knows what they're doing tells me to do, and I do it, I mean, literally, you would not even notice me if I didn't do that every day. My dad, when he was my age, he could have set a drink on his belly. I'm just, what I'm saying is that that's a mean thing to say. But what I'm saying is it's those little things that you do every single day that actually make the biggest impact in your business, in your personal life and all that. And you all know that. What we're trying to build with Captivate is the kind of setup and automation and routines for you that literally these things get done for you. If they, like being able to push 2 buttons and be able to ride in Japan, or being able to hit a play button and be able to get a workout, a really good one that's following something that's going to make sure that I get a full body workout or whatever it is that, you know, they're coaching at that time, is essential to my ability to succeed at it. Does that make sense? So that's what I want Captivate to be for all of you. And I hope you know, as you've gone through this, probably been a little grueling, I admit it. We're learning with you about what the system needs to do, what it can do, what it's not doing that well. And you're helping me build it as we're trying to create that for you. But I hope you all have this vision that you're going to be at a point like with the NordicTrack or with the Beachbody website, where you literally click a couple of buttons and all of a sudden business is just flowing. Okay. Believe me, if it's not working yet, it will. Don't give up on it. Please, please. And if you know and can see, because we got lots of you out there that are seasoned agents that know what kind of routines need to be there, but you also understand that wouldn't it be nice if my system did this? Wouldn't it be great if this would happen for me so I don't have to do this routine that, if you think about it, doesn't even make sense, right? So let's start working, let's keep working together to make sure that this works well for you to do it that easily and that effectively. Okay, so what I want to show you, let me share my screen. I'll show you what we're going to try to accomplish today, or we will accomplish today, and then go through a couple things that I want to show you as well that will go along with it. So today what we're going to try to do is I want to go back into the CMA Builder. One thing I forgot to show you the last time I showed that to you is how you can update the information. So it's kind of a final review of that. You can't update those numbers. I don't know if you know that, but I know we were talking about HomeBot. Oh, I can go into HomeBot and I can change the numbers. If someone says, hey, that's not right, I can change it. You can't do that with home reports within this. We're going to see if we can get to that point. But I love the fact that I'm getting as much engagement that it still works really well. But when you finally do that final CMA report, even if your comparables that you're using don't quite fit the narrative of that house has, an upgraded $50,000 kitchen that they just did or whatever, and it's going to give it a little bit more value or whatever that may be, you can go in there and adjust those numbers. I want to show you how to do that, okay? The open house registration I told you about. So it has an open house registration with the QR code and everything. It's really cool. I'm going to show you how that happens, because once you've done your advertising for your open house or for your new listing, which goes to that open house, you're going to be at that open house. There's the registration there that we'll talk about and how to set that up. Then I want to make sure, just as a quick review, your ad options. If you, like I said last week, if you've worked with me and I drove you crazy and said, oh yeah, it's super easy. You just do 6 ads over 6 days. You just put them here and, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's just, make sure you use a good hook and call to action and switch out this and do that. And then hit the boost button and then select these, and I went through all of it like it was no big deal. And then you try to do it and you're like, oh my hell, this is like way too much work. It's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, there's no way. And then I go through the system, and so I'm doing this too, just so you know. That property that I told you about that I had in Eagle Mountain, and again, the reason I sent you the 3 Ps this week is because I really want you to know, if you don't have those 3 Ps in mind with every single listing, your listing will fail. I'm sorry. If your house is overpriced, I don't care how nice it looks and how good your pictures are and how good your ads are, people aren't going to come because you didn't give them a reason to get excited about a property. Okay, please understand how important that is. I want to review that just a little bit, so we'll do that too, the 3 Ps, but we'll go into that. And then the last thing I want you to do, or I'm going to show you how to do, is hosting a live tour. So I had people ask me, I don't have listings right now, but I want to be the agent of I want to be the listing master like you're teaching. You can be, and they're not even your listings. You can, all my listings, please advertise as much as you want. Please take them. You don't even have to ask me permission. You know, if the DRE calls me and said, does that person have permission, or some weird agent says, I don't care what, oh yeah, they definitely have permission. You do too, by the way, because you're an idiot to think that you shouldn't be doing that for me. Anyway, sorry. So I'll teach you how to do that. Of course, you'll have to get their permission to do it, but I think like, that would be so, could you imagine that? Someone calls you up, hey, Ashley, I know you got a new listing. I would really like to advertise it, but I feel so bad that I'm asking you this. Is it all right if I put it all over social media and tell all my friends about it? Are you cool with that? Can I have your written permission so I don't go to jail and get fined? Yeah, sorry. But I'll show you how to do that. Yeah, I know it sounds nuts. What was that? Oh yeah, it's my listing. Don't you dare put a link out there, right? And then you know what that team does? They get leads from Zillow or Realtor.com or from Boomtown. And guess what those systems do to generate leads? They advertise your listings. It just,
I'd rather pay somebody.
oh yeah, but it's my listing. Don't you dare, Mr. Agent or Mrs. Agent or Miss Agent, list my or advertise my listing. But yeah, oh yeah, Zillow can do it all day long. I know. I can always count on Sam to say it as it is. So yeah, we are a little feisty this morning. Oh, and by the way, for those of you, and I know you know, I don't want to rehash this or anything like that, but thank you for all of those that sent kind words and support. The funeral went amazing for my brother, and thank you, Mary and others, and Ashley, and all of you that came and sent flowers and all those kind of things. The bagpipes were absolutely amazing, so I really appreciate that. It was tough, and I didn't know you played the bagpipes.
Well, not anymore, but I used to.
Well, how am I supposed to know that?
I can still pull it off.
What?
Wear the kilt.
Yeah,
It's very free.
yeah. On those windy days, it's like, woo. Okay, so we better move on. It's getting a little crazy. Okay, so I hope, please put every single person you know in the database. If you haven't been doing that, that should be your number one thing. I don't care if they're friends, neighbors, you know, leads that you're coming in from other places, everybody. If you don't do that, you can't test the system and see how well it works. My problem right now is I haven't even been putting that many in, is we're getting so busy that I'm having to farm out these to other people to take them because I don't have time to deal with it. I want you to be in the same boat. You need to get busy, but you're not going to see how any of this works if you don't put people in there. So remember that analogy with the, you know, Nordic track or with the Beachbody. If you don't have, you know, the system's not set up for you to be able to engage people, then of course you're not going to get anything happening. So you got to put those people in there. Okay. So I do want to show you, here's a lead that just came in. Just actually I'm going to tell you about two. And I know some of you out there are like, oh, I hear your stories all the time and sick of hearing them. I'm sorry, but I have to share with you how this works. But I want you to tell me your stories and how they're working for you. And I've heard a few of them. I heard one, who was it that said Braden, who was it that got a $6.4 million buyer opportunity because they got went to an open house?
Molly, she's paying for other lead sources, but it came in.
Yeah.
Her AI bot started communicating, and then I checked with her to make sure she was in communication. She got a 6.4 buyer now.
Yeah, $6.4 million buyer. She didn't even know her lead came in. Braden had to call her up and say, "Hey, you got a lead that coming. Are you gonna respond to this thing? Because I will if you don't want to." Yeah.
She's been
following my sister.
Yeah, I called her. She was like, yeah, just barely hit the road, but she pulled over. She made the call.
Yeah, and she,
Yeah. No, she just moved back to leave that.
yeah.
So
That's the wonderful thing about real estate is you really don't need a whole lot of business to make good money, right? You get 3 deals a month. What's 3 deals a month? $30,000-$40,000 a month in income, right? That's good money. I want you to be able to do that. That should be easy. I want you to get to the point where you're hitting 9 or 10 deals a month and you're like, do I really want that many? Do I need to build a team because I want to spend time with family and other things like that? That's where I want you all to be, right? So we talked about those 3. Oh, let me tell you these these two really quick. So I had a lead that came in, comes into the system, and all of a sudden, my AI picks up and all these things happen. We're trying to figure out how to get the engagements automatically, and we found a way to do that. We'll teach you about that. But you can make it so that if you have a lead source that comes in, like we have from UpNest, these leads that come in, I can actually tell it, create a home report from the data they gave you, the house that they say is their house, and automatically send it out instead of me going in there and manually putting that together. And you can do that. And we'll show you that. We've been testing it. Just want to make sure we hit all the bases before we do that. And then I put a market report for the area that was in there. Now, this is a lead source that you pay for. This is the biggest problem that most agents face with lead sources, is that I pay this money and I don't get a good enough conversion rate. Anybody ever feel that way? Like, yeah, I don't mind paying $1,000 a month if I make $10,000 a month. But if I pay $1,000 a month and I don't make anything, then that I can't handle, right? Anybody feel that way? So you got to be able to convert. Our strength, Captivate's strength, isn't necessarily generating leads that you shouldn't try to get from sources. There's many good sources out there that we don't want to have to try to compete with. We can't compete with Zillow or Realtor.com with UpNest or some of these others where you can get leads in. But the one thing that we see is the biggest gap or struggle out there is that you get leads coming in and you can't convert them. And Braden knows this too, because when we first started doing the UpNest leads, they would come in. If we could get to the phone, we would 2 hours later, to call that person. And then they don't answer the phone. And then we send a couple text messages and they don't respond to the text messages. And then nothing happens. And we just wasted that money. Once we started putting it in here, what was that?
Even if I call them immediately.
Yeah. So we do the, we do the double dial now. We do that. But right now with our UpNest leads, and this is just one example. I mean, there's plenty of them out there. But right now we get about 5 or 6 leads a month, I think. Is that about 5 or 6 a month that we're getting in? We're getting actually in touch with at least 3 of them, which was crazy compared to what it was before. And we're putting about 1 to 2 a month under contract. It's nuts how good it works. Never even got close to that when we just let, us be in charge of it manually. That makes sense. Okay. Now I send her the home report. I send her the market report. And this is like what you probably face. She's trying to help her dad sell a house, right? This is what leads are. Oh, I'm trying to help my dad. But obviously I'd have never gotten a hold of her if this hadn't. So we get this engagement. She starts engaging with the AI. She got the home value update and then she responded to it, the CMA, she opened it and stuff like that. She starts texting me, right? So in the text, she explains to me finally that she wants to know, here, I'll even bring it up where the text is. So see all these texts now that we have. This is what I always do. And I'm going to show you how to do this too. I have a video that I send to every single person that's either on the buying or the listing side to introduce myself as on leads, because they don't know who I am. They've never seen me before, right? I'll show you. I'm going to create a script for you and help you put your video together. We'll talk about that as we go through these routines, right? Starting next week. But I had this video and I'm going to redo it because the sound's not good.
Hi, my name is Mike Anderson, and I'm a real estate agent right here in this area where you're trying to sell your house. And I got your information from UpNest and Realtor.com, who we work with. Now, one thing that makes what we do different than any other agent out there is, one, you get...
How do I stop it? Okay, there we go.
Hi, my name is Mike
Sorry.
Anderson, and I'm a
Trying to stop it. I want to go through the whole thing. I'll show you this later. I'll even send it to you. But anyway, so I have for each one of our lead sources, I create a video. It's so easy to create videos like this. I even put, I did want to show you this part too, because I'll show you how to do this
Hi,
too.
my name is Mike Anderson, and I'm a...
Sorry. And then I actually put examples. I talk about we help stage homes, and we advertise not just on the MLS and Realtor.com and Trulia, but we also do it on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And we use 3D technology and drone footage, and I send this out to them. And then we just recently sold 2 homes, and they sold quickly. So I'll give you a script so you can do that.
Give me a call.
It's important that they see you. You can actually have that automatically send through our system, which is really cool, right? So then she goes, Mike, I have a couple of questions for you. She will not answer her phone. I called her 4 times. She's even responding here. And I'm like, hey, can we just talk about this? She will not answer her phone. You ever met leads like that? Like they're afraid to talk to you.
Holly has a client that she has never talked to on the phone. They did everything by text.
Really? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, they were buying
Yeah.
a second home and
They must be related to my kids because I will call my kids and they will not answer. And then they'll text me, what do you want, Dad? You know, it's like, do you not know how to talk anymore? Yeah. So anyway, so she's asking me these questions. I'm answering her questions and stuff. I finally, after all this stuff, like, okay, that's too high a commission. So I mentioned to her, I said, I know your dad wants, and she even told, so I finally got a hold of her after all this, but I wouldn't have happened if we didn't have all these other conversations. She tells me, I'm trying to help my dad sell the house. He wants $600,000 for the house. When I sent her the, I sent her the home report, it actually was within that range. You could get 600,000 for the house. It was at the top of the range, but it was within that range, right? Which is really good, you know, for them to see, for her to see that. And I told her when I talked to her, when I found out her story, she's like, my dad does not want to pay agent commissions. They came out and said that. So, and we're at 2.5% that she asked what our commission rate was. We're at 2.5%. I don't go down from that. Because, and I told her, I said, the reason I don't is because I spend anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 on all the ads. I do all the 3D technology stuff that I told you about. You know, all the Matterport, the drone footage, the Insta360 camera. We do all that for the property. We give you a single property website and all that kind of stuff. So what's really cool is she was adamant with her dad about, we do not want to pay agent commissions, because her idea of an agent is what? Yeah, a money sucker. Yeah, basically. They're just going to take my money. And she's trying to convince her dad, like, well, how are we going to put it up on the MLS? So that's why she went to realtor.com to try to figure out, well, I don't even know what to do, right? How many people are in that boat that are trying to sell their house, but they don't want to pay an agent to do it? It'd be like, I don't want to pay a lawyer, but hey, can you tell me how to represent myself in court? You know, it's like, sorry, you got to pay me if you want that. So anyway, we had the conversation. She's actually now talking to her father. It just happened yesterday, so it's not like anything has developed beyond that. But the fact that I got a hold of her, that we had a conversation, that I understood what she wanted, and now I tell her, and she's telling her dad this, Mike can help you make the money that you want. He's not going to cost you the money. She uses my words when I said that to her, because that's what I'm trying to explain to her. My job isn't to cost you money. That's a bad reputation out there. My job is to make you the most money to help you sell your house quickly. And they're in that conundrum of, how do we make the most money and how do we sell quickly? Does that make sense? But you have to have the right communications out there, and our system can help you to do that. So I wanted to share that with you. And then the one that went a little bit further, and UpNest had this lead as well. After all these communications and with AI, he's talked to AI more than he's talked to me, right? But he's gone through this. I sent him the market report and the home report. I've now sent him a CMA that goes along with his property. But this is what happened is what I communicated in the video that I sent, he sent to her. And then the other agent said that they would sell the house for more money than I was saying that they should sell the house for. So who would you pick if you're selling the house? The one's going to sell it for more money. But guess what's in my communication that we've built into this? Any agent can throw out any number they want. One thing we don't control is what? We don't control the market. But guess what we do control? How well a house is presented. Remember we talked about the 3 Ps. And how well it's advertised. And the price. Yeah, that's the price. You know, I try not to go too much into price in the beginning because they get hung up on that. But how well it's presented, I can control that, and how well it's advertised. And if I get more people looking at your home, guess what's going to happen? It's going to push up value and timing. And I tell them that through this communication that goes there. Guess who they chose? They chose us over another agent that was going to charge them less commission and sell the house for more money. And all they see is what? Oh, I'm going to make more money there. But what I communicated to them made more sense. Like, oh, and guess what? I came to look at their house to do the true value. The other agent didn't even go and look at their house. And then when I went to their house, they have a really nice house down in Salt Lake. It's an older house, but it's really well done inside. The front porch, when you walk up, it had been stained red, but it was, you know what happens after time, it was splotchy and worn and all that kind of stuff. Guess what he's doing because of my recommendation? He's restaining that and redoing some work in the house, putting everything into storage. He's basically following all the things that I asked him to do. He's spending time and money to do things that before, in his mind, he just wanted to sell for the most money, for the less commission, by some agent that just threw out a number. And now, because of the way I'm communicating my offering, he picked me, and he's spending money, and he's doing the recommendations. Guess what's going to happen when his house goes on the market, hopefully? It's going to sell faster and for more money. Yeah.
So you're saying you're going to host a class on how to get clients to actually do what you're telling them to do?
Well, if you haven't been to that class, yes, but it's also online. It's your staging and flipping class. Please take that class. It's free to all of you. Please go through that.
They understand it. They get it. They just won't do it.
Actually, I hate to go through all these stories because I know some of you are like, yeah, I've heard of plenty from Mike when he goes. I just love telling stories. But I mean, Ed Belka, who's not here today, but he usually tries to be here. He's been through our coaching program. We had an older couple that are living in their home while it sells. They've had the house in the family for 74 years. What is that? What time did that happen?
Long time.
Yeah, a long time. Yeah.
Generations.
Yeah. So a long time. A lot of their furniture is probably about that old. Their kitchen is this big. It's like, remember those days where the only person that's supposed to be in the kitchen is the wife, right? Do you remember those days? We've gone past that. So the kitchen is literally this big, right? So anyway, he actually paid because he's this smart guy, right? He paid to have someone come and do an appraisal on his home. Literally paid for that to happen. And they told him that this house was worth $860,000. And the guy's stoked. So he's out there trying to find an agent to sell his house for $860,000. So this is cool because I hope I know I always tell long stories for answering questions, but I love this. So Ed calls me up. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this guy because there's no way this house is going to sell for 860. And what else was he saying? He's like, and the house looks dated. It's still a really nice house, super nice house, all brick, older neighborhood, but it's super nice house. But 860, oh my gosh. So, and he says, and I'm still trying to do all the ads, you know what I mean? 6 ads and 6, that kind of stuff. So anyway, guess what we convinced them to do? It's crazy. First, I sat down with them and talked to them about the value. And I'm straight with them. I'm totally straight. I said, I love your house. It's a beautiful home. I said, it's a 74-year-old home and you've done some really nice things to keep it up. Your kitchen is this big. I told them that. Your kitchen is this big. Most people nowadays, they want a great big kitchen. So they're going to come in and think about what it's going to cost for them because your kitchen would look great because you could bump it out. I looked at it. It's like they have how they have the formal dining and then they have a kitchen. What's the best thing to do? I've done this all the time. You bump out the dining and to make it one big kitchen, right? You know what the wife said as soon as I said that? We've been talking about that for years. That's what she said. And guess what they're doing? They're selling the house to do what? They're buying a brand new home, brand new build to get it exactly the way they want. Guess what it's going to have? A big kitchen, right? So when I was able to sit down and just talk real to them, I said, yeah, that's what's going to happen when people come in there and see that. And we went through it. I said, first, I mentioned they're going to have to paint a railing, that they're going to have to do some other touch-ups in the house. And then all their furniture needs to go out. I got stage 7 designs, by the way. So I use stage 7. They will stage a home. If you don't know this, have you ever had anybody want to live in their house, but you still want to stage it? If they don't have dogs, they will do it. So they actually are staging their whole house. They're paying them $2,500 to stage their house. They're repainting the things that I told them to do. And guess what they're listing their house at? $825 instead of $860 because of the kitchen issue that was there. But what I'm trying to say is if you communicate intelligent and not that you're not, but I'm saying through the system and what it does and through the CMA presentation, and we'll go through that, you'll be amazed at how responsive people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Right? That's what people need to hear. Most agents are just trying to tell people what they want to hear, give them, oh yeah, we'll list it for $860 and we will let you keep all your old furniture in here and won't even talk about the kitchen that is, obviously not going to get you that top price. Even with square footage, it's just not going to get you that. And guess what happens with those homes? They sit on the market and they get price reduced. It finally does sell for $820 6 months later. And are they thrilled with you? They probably not. So I will tell you, it works be straight with them. But when you give them the true value report, when you give them the CMA that's in here, when you talk real to them about what you can help them to do, it works. And then if they are so stubborn, they say no, I want you to be so busy that you get to say no too. I want you to say no to people that are stubborn. Yeah.
Your staging company, is it 2,500 per month or 2,500?
It depends on the size of the house and what you're going to stage. So it could be 18. Usually it's around 2,000 to 2,500. It depends on the size of the house. And the first month is always the most. The subsequent months are a lot less, about a little bit more than half of the price, I think. My goal is never to have furniture in there for more than a few weeks, right? Because you want to get it under contract. But yes, you would pay whatever their ongoing price is for that. Okay. Any other questions about any of this? So anyway, sorry about the long stories on this. Those 3 Ps, and that's going to kind of end up what I'm going to teach you now, or explain what I'm going to teach you now about your CMA and things like that. I want you to understand pricing. What's the other one? After pricing that I sent, how many of you read my emails? Presentation, people. Just remember that every single time that you sell a property. If you don't price it right, it's going to sit on the market, right? Pricing it right, it depends on what. Whenever I talk to people about pricing or list sellers about pricing, I want them to know, and maybe I should stop sharing just for a second while I go through this, and then I'll go through what I was going to show you. So is it showing me now?
No, you're good.
Okay. So it's on me. Thank you. So here's what it has to do with pricing. What I try to tell everybody, all my sellers with pricing, is that the listing price, number one, is your ultimate decision, not mine. So I take off that burden that I control that for some way. I also tell them I don't control market price anyway, or market value. What I can control is what? How it's presented and how it's advertised. That's what I can control. And I'm better than anybody else at it. And I tell them that I'm better than anybody else. And I believe it, whether it's true or not. I don't know. I believe it. I can control that. So, but pricing is super important because it's what's called a listing price. Does that mean that's where your house is going to sell? Most of my homes sell for more than asking price. I like it when it does. Why do I want it to sell for more than asking price?
Sellers love it.
Because I have multiple buyers bidding against it. Here's the thing I want you to remember. Every single home is unique, right? Every home has a unique quality to it. The more people I get interested in that unique quality of that property, right? The qualities of that property, the more they fall in love with it. Guess when people buy things like a house, guess what the biggest factor of that is, believe it or not? And it's not location as you think, or price, or all those other things. Guess what it is? Emotion. They fall in love with that property, right? And if you can't get people's eyes on the property, they're not going to fall in love with it, right? So presentation is super important. But when I tell them about price, I want to get more people interested in the property, get them all here at the same time, get them bidding on that property, have it go up in price. Like the house we just sold for $490. I listed it for $475. That's exciting, right? The house that we're listing for $625 instead of $680, I hope it sells for $640. Like, so I explain to my sellers, at least in this market, I like to go a little above. Now, when the market was hot and crazy before, you could list it at the very top of the value and you still got more money for it. It was nuts back then, but it's not happening now. But people are still thinking that's what I need to do. So they're listing properties at the very top of the value. I want you to get the top of that range, but let's not list it there. Let's list it a little bit lower. What does that do when you list it a little bit lower? It gets more people engaged, because guess what everybody loves? What's the first thing you love about a property? A good deal. A good deal is what they like. How many of you go shopping and it's that good deal that brings you in the first place? And whether you pay the good deal or you buy something else, that's how they got you in. Please know that mentality that Freud came up with, I don't know if you know that, and it was his son that, anyway, that's another story. But I want you to know that people, they get, when they see a house priced at the very top of the value, and your first engagement with them is to get them excited about your property. If the house is already priced at the top, that excitement wanes. Kind of, does that make sense? So I try to convince my sellers, let's come below on your listing price, especially in today's market, so that they want to come and see it. They want to, if they take more time looking at your property, because the price, like, oh my gosh, like our listing that we had for 475, the builder is selling the same exact property for 485, right? They also are giving them 10,000 in concessions and a 4.99% guaranteed, long-term rate. They were giving them a lot more by the time everything was said and done than the 475 even, right? But because the 475 came in under what a house in that area would go for, we had 22 showings in 3 days, 5 offers, 2 escalation clauses, and it sold for 490. We actually sold that house for more than the builder sells the same exact model for. Crazy. But why did that happen that way? You got to think of the mentality. The first step in that process is that they got excited about the house because they saw an incredibly presented house at a very good price. Does that make sense? So I'm telling all my sellers, how many of you have trouble telling your sellers you're pricing it too high? I tell them the listing price is just a listing price. This is one of the cool things I like to say. You can always say no to an offer, but you can't say yes if you don't have any. Is that not a cool way to put it? And I tell them that, and they'll sit there and think about it a little bit, and like, oh yeah, if we can get a lot of offers on the property and it goes up in price, so they get excited about putting their house lower than they think it's worth. That actually excites them because they realize, yeah, that's exactly how I feel about when I buy things. If something excites me, I'm going to spend more time. If you spend more time looking at that property and you spend time and go over to that property, what happens in the next step of that staging of that, getting them excited about the property? They fall in love. What happens when people fall in love? They will do anything to buy it. And when you get other people interested in buying it, it starts to go up in price, right? Does that make sense? Pricing. Get your people to understand that if your house isn't priced right, which is a listing price, which is lower than what you think you're going to get for it, you're not going to get as many people interested in the price. Could you imagine that? Think about that. How many of you would like to have a lot more listings and have them priced under market value? Anybody think that's cool? Because guess what happens to homes that are priced under market value? They sell. Always sell. And I even tell them, they're afraid, well, what if it doesn't sell for more than that? I said, well, then you found out what market value is. Because a lot of times they don't know otherwise what market value really is for their home. Make sense? That's pricing. Number 2 is presentation. If you don't present your homes in a way that maximizes its value, you're losing money. You're walking away from easy money. You want that high range? Your deck, that's one of the first things they're going to see when they walk up to your house. It's curb appeal. Your deck needs to be restained. He didn't even it wasn't even like a second of a thought. He's like, done. I'll do that. And then when I walked through the house and I took all the pictures and I gave him the report, that was part of this too. There were 5, 6 other things. He's like, yeah, I want to do this. He even came up with ideas himself. I didn't even have to tell him on some of those things. Like, oh, that's a great idea. He's like, oh yeah, the trim over here I got to caulk this. I got to finish this thing out here. Even a couple of things I didn't notice because his now mindset is what? I want this house to look as good as it possibly can. And they're taking all of their stuff out of their house and putting it in storage, even though he's going to live there. Just like the other older couple is taking all their stuff and putting it into storage. They're even putting into storage their 50-year-old furniture because it has meaning to them. You know what they're probably going to do with that? They're going to pay a year or 2 worth of storage fees, and then finally it's going to be given away or they'll pass away and nobody wants it. But I didn't tell them that, but that's usually what happens, right? But if they don't, want it, nobody else in their family wants it, the people that are going to think about buying their house don't want it either. So I convinced them, I said, your house looks aged, dated with the furniture. With staged furniture, it's going to look so much better. So they said, write a check, $2,500. They're paying to the staging company to do that. So I'm telling you, people, when they see it in the reports, when you talk about it in this way, it changes the way they think about it. So that's presentation. And then people, how do you get people looking at a home? Yeah, you get the great pictures, but you also do what? Yeah, the advertising has to include 3D tours, drone footage, the 360 video, and even the neighborhood. When I told him that I'm going to go and knock on some neighbor doors, but if you know a neighbor, he came up with 2 neighbors like, I know who you need to talk to. As soon as I told him I want to ask a couple of neighbors what they love about the neighborhood, to put it on video. He's like, that's the coolest thing ever. He's like, that's the coolest idea ever. Because I told him people don't just buy a house, they buy a community. But guess what happens when I talk to those neighbors that he introduces me to and I do a video with him that he's already told them he wants them to do? I don't have to do all that work. And guess what I just did? I made another raving fan. The neighbors are going to think, what other agent does that? He's actually asking me questions about that house. And now the house looks I've just added someone else to my database. I've added more people that can potentially be my, new clients. Make sense? Okay. So please know that as I finish up this training or coaching and with our system on listings, price, presentation, and people, using what this information has to offer them and get them engaged, and you talk in that way, that's where I feel like the biggest lack in our industry of coaching or training is. It's not on how do I get new leads. I can pay for leads. The two biggest groups here in the Salt Lake area, they pay nearly $100,000 a month for leads. Yeah, or over, right? And they're learning how to convert at least enough to make it worth that while. And then most other agents, they don't. And they're like, how are they making so much money? You need leads coming in. But guess where the biggest fault is, I think, or the biggest lack of it, that is. How do they teach you to do those leads, Braden? Because you worked with one of those, or you worked with both of those groups at some point.
You get them in, you work them through the transaction, you kick them out. You don't worry about referral. You don't worry about like the actual providing value through the process. You get them in, you close them out, kick them out.
Yeah, but how often did you have to call those people, and how many of those converted?
Oh, they call it 21 days of hell. You call them 3 times a day back to back, and then you send them 2 text messages and a video for 21 days straight.
That sounds fun, doesn't it? Oh, that's like the most fun you could ever have. Yeah. Yeah. And guess what they think about it? Yeah. The people that are receiving that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then if it's from Zillow or from one of those others, how many other agents got that same lead? Right?
At least 5 others.
That's grueling. So what's the turnover rate with those two big groups? When it comes to agents, they're like,
agents are in and out super fast.
Yeah, because it's awful. So what are we doing with this? What I hope you can see as I finish up with it, we are nurturing and converting people based on value, based on meaningful information that they're like, oh my God, it's refreshing, it's informative, it's helpful, it's not badgering and salesy. Yeah.
What do you do when they can't pay for state?
Honestly, I know I have had people ask me that before, and I'm trying to think. You have a $500,000 property, $800,000 property, and you can't pay $2,000 to make an extra $20,000. There's something wrong. So I know that sounds like really bad to say it that way. Everybody's got the money. They just don't want to spend it. Honestly, I know people will say that, but they don't. It's like, how come people won't answer their phone? They got their phone with them all the time. They're not answering the phone because they can't. They're answering the phone because they don't want to. They're not paying the $2,500 for staging, not because they can't, I'm telling you. Otherwise, they wouldn't own a house. They don't want to pay the staging because they don't believe that they're going to get that return. Now, there's some circumstances like an RO or a short sell. You may have a situation like that. I'm not saying that you're going to make them feel bad or anything like that. But I'm telling you, I've worked with people that are like, literally, they bought the house 2 years ago. They're probably going to be, after all the expenses and everything else, and they bought it during the height of everything, they're probably not going to be making much money. That house out in Eagle Mountain, they lost money. They literally lost money. They bought the house 4 months ago and didn't get transferred. Remember, I kind of mentioned that to you. They lost money. Guess what they had money for? Staging. And why did they want to do it? Because it made sense to them when I told them, do you want your house to sell for the most money in this market and sell it quickly? Trust me, staging that $2,000 is going to make a huge difference. They both did it. And it did. It made a difference. Okay. So good question. But in my mind, it's the way people see things. It's like if you own a house that's worth $500,000 and you want to maximize its value and you don't want to stage it, you're walking away from probably $20,000 right there. Right there. Do you want to do that? They come up with the money. Okay. Does that sound fair? Does that sound mean? Okay. Now, here's what I want to show you at that CMA. When I want you to send these CMAs are so amazing, but I forgot to show you one thing. Just creating a CMA right here. Look at how fast it's created a CMA for me right there. I just pushed one button, boom, it's done. This is the Nordic track of you know, of doing this CMA. How many hours have you spent on CMAs, right? So I create this right here, and then I can adjust comps. But the cool thing with this, they can do it too. I don't know if you know that, but they can go, well, they don't adjust them themselves. They tell you, hey, this house fits, this one doesn't. You get them engaged with it. I love this part of it. Even though you're the pro and you're going to help them, let them see all those that are there. And then, see if I go to continue here. What I wanted to show you, which I forgot to show you last time. Oh, I pull it up here. Here's the estimate. So here's your.
Mike, can you share your screen?
Oh,
I'm not
shoot,
sharing your
yes.
screen. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Or I'm sorry that I didn't think of that. Okay. So let me go back to that. Those didn't see it. So if I go over here and I hit send CMA, remember you have a home report and a CMA. Everyone understand the difference between the two? A home report is a monthly estimate of what your house is worth, how much equity you have in it, all that. If you knew home about, it's the same thing. It tells you all those things, gives you graphs, and if you want to refi, this is what you could do. It gives them all these ideas. That's something that they get every single month, month after month. Who should be receiving this in your database? Every single homeowner. I don't care who they are. Every single homeowner should get that. You want a monthly message that engages people and gets them excited about what you do as a real estate agent. Nothing is more powerful than that home report. So that's what a home report is. Now, when they get to the point where they're like, okay, I want to know what I can do with this money. I want to move up, downsize, buy my first, well, it wouldn't be a first property if they didn't own a property, but you know, all that kind of stuff. So then you send them a CMA. So you click on this button right here, send CMA, okay? And then it creates it in 2 seconds. It's crazy how fast that is. You can adjust the comps by clicking here, meaning it'll show you what it found through its intelligence. And you know what I do most of the time? I used to like go in there and get anal about it and like, wait, I don't know if this one's good. Oh, let me look at these pictures. How many of you have done that before? And you're like going through every single, I'm like, look, I'm in this stage of it. I'm just trying to get them engaged with me. I literally just let it do it. But if I customize this report, here's what I'm going to show you as you go through it. You can customize the pages we talked about, add or delete pages. This thing is awesome. Oh, I just deleted that by accident, sorry. But here's all of these that it found. They get to click on them because it's a digital copy of a CMA, not a printed copy. How many of you printed so many CMAs out there and handed them all those pages and all those pictures and stuff, and people don't even really look at them? The digital ones, they're like, oh, yeah, I know that house, but wait a second, I'm going to click on it. And they look through the pictures and they can start telling you what they like or didn't like it and how it compares to them. Such a cool thing. Then once you go to, see, I'll go to continue here. Here's the CMA report, how it looks, right? And this is where they get to go in and they can actually click on these and they can see it on your website. Isn't that cool? They're going back to your website and then they can go through and click through all the pictures and they can respond to you and say, hey, you know what? I know this house kind of fits in these ways, but it doesn't fit in this way or whatever. And you can actually work with them to understand if the comparable is really a good comparable or not. It's a cool thing. You know what it's done the best for me is when someone's idea of their house is way higher and I send them this and they start looking through it and they're like, oh yeah, my house isn't quite that nice and it's only selling for this price. I've had people actually come down on their expectations just based on this information. But when they see it printed, they don't do that. Have you ever noticed that? They see it printed, they don't look at that close enough. But when they do it this way, they look at it. They see the videos and the pictures and they're like, oh yeah, that's a really nice house. They really staged that well or whatever it is. I guess I better do what? Stage my house. It's so cool to have them look through this. So now as I go through and adjust the comps and I go through this part of it, let's see. Oh, sorry. I already showed you that part of it. Oh, here it is, where I was before. So this is where, see this final estimated price? This is the mid-range. This is the low range. This is the high range. Do you see that? Remember I told you every house has what? Low, mid, and high range, right? They see this estimated price. you want to have a decent idea of what they think. I always ask them, you know, like, what do you think? Or I'll look on Zillow even. Have you ever done that before? Because I know if they're looking at Zillow, I want to make sure I'm not too far off, you know, or something like that. I just like to check that out. But what I always tell them is, you're in this range somewhere. I want to get you the top range if possible. So I tell them that, right? But here's the thing. If that doesn't make sense or it's not pulling up good comps, guess what you can do? Change the numbers, whatever you want. So you don't have to just stick to what was there, even with the comparables that are there. If you really feel like, you know what, they really did, like this one property with that house, they have 0.8 acres, so almost a full acre on that property. And it was gorgeous. Like the huge garden, they had they had an extra garage and a workshop back there. There's some value to that. So you could put an extra 5,000 if you wanted into that. Does that make sense to do that? So I guess what I'm trying to say is you can adjust this. Then over here, my commission says 3%. This is what it's always going to do for you. You can leave it at that if you do. I actually now, because of prices, I'm at 2.5%. Just so you know, with houses that are under $1 million. If they're over $1 million, I'm at 2%. And if they're over $5 million, I'm at 1.5%. And I tell people that the reason I do that is because I know how much it costs me to market and advertise your property. And I'm not going to charge you more than what makes sense to me. They love hearing that because it makes it sound like I'm not just a hard nose, you know, like I only do 3% or something like that. I try to adjust. Now, your broker, or you may feel differently. Please don't feel like you have to do it my way. But you can change that here. If you want to put buyer compensation in here, this is where you put it. I'm going to give you one other secret that I found that's working for me with the NAR. You can decide to do that. I no longer negotiate buyer compensation through a separate buyer commission. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. I do not tell any of my sellers, you're not going to pay buyer commission. Don't get that wrong. What I tell them, though, is that because of the new NAR ruling, I don't want to fix a buyer compensation number. My rate is 2.5%. And I just say this, most of my clients, because you can't tell them this is what you should do or anything, you all know what you've heard. So what I say is most of my clients will match that if a buyer brings someone in, if a buyer agent brings someone in. But instead of me putting 2.5% on a buyer agreement compensation on the ERS, I am just going to say that you won't pay over 5%. That's what I tell them. So I negotiate. Guess what my seller listing commission is on the ERS now? 5%. And then I put zeros on all the other. Because one, what that allows me to do is what? I can negotiate it and I can advertise it without going into that gray area, because you're not supposed to talk about buyer commission. You know what I'm talking about? So now I'm like, yeah, they've agreed to 5% and we can split it. Sometimes I tell them that, or I'll say to them when they call 2.5%. But guess what I'm normally telling the buyer agents when they come in? 2%, or I kind of get a feel for that. And then I have room, we can negotiate now. How many of you have gotten to a point where then the buyer comes in and they want a whole bunch of stuff? And then what the seller, you know what the seller's thinking is, well, if they want all that, then you guys should take less commission. Have you ever had that thought before? So what I'm doing now is I tell them, you will not pay over 5%, and I will try my best to negotiate less than that. And my sellers love it. It's the coolest way to explain it. Instead of saying, I take 2.5%, and I can't recommend this, but you should pay, and all the weird stuff that we're saying about you should pay 2% or 2.5% or whatever that is. Now I just say total commission that you'll pay both agents, 5%. If I can find a buyer, we can take some of that off. I don't even tell them how much it is because I don't have to anymore. I just say you will not pay more than 5%. And they love it. Anybody feel good about that? I love doing that now. So that's what I'm doing. So you can change all this stuff here, and it basically, guess what it does when you put all the right numbers in here? You could even put escrow and HOA dues if you get that information from Mary or whoever you get it from. It creates a net sheet for them as part of your CMA. Is that not cool? Net sheets are built into it. Please know how cool that is. It's just so cool, right? And you can add a field. What's the new add field that you want to do? Or it's not, you don't have to add it. Mortgage payoff. You'll have to figure what that out is with them, okay? But usually I don't even bother with it. I just throw it out there as it is. And it might show that they're getting as if they own the house outright. But we can talk about that down the road as I do that. But anyway, this is where you change that. Any questions about that part of it? And then once you're done, I don't want to finish this because it'll send them another. I've already sent them a CMA. But when I come over here, if I click on my oh, sorry, let me just. Oh, here it is, my CMAs. Oh, that's the, come on, Mike. I hate it when I get lost, sorry. In my own system, because I haven't figured it all out. All of my CMAs, I'm trying to remember where I just go see all my CMAs. Not the website, not my listings. Sorry, it's a simple, easy thing. I hate when I get stuck like this because then you're like, Mike doesn't know what he's doing. And sometimes I don't. But anyway, when I'm done with the CMA, it shows me all my CMAs. Maybe I'll come over here. Well, that's just the CMA itself. Build a CMA, continue. I'll just do that. Confirm. Okay, there we go. Here's all my CMAs. There's a way to get there, and we'll put it in the video. So anyway, here's the CMA report for these different places, right? If I click on this CMA, right? Oh, sorry, not if I click on the CMA. If I click on the person's name, I can send it by email and text. So I usually like to send it to them both here. We are also building it so that as soon as you do a CMA, you can have it so it automatically just sends it. But this gives you the option to do it either one of those two ways. Okay, wanted to show you that. Sorry, I got lost in there a little bit. Any questions about the CMA? No? Everybody good about that? Anybody sent out a CMA through the system yet? You haven't? You have?
I just did about 6 or 7.
You've done 6 or 7? Sweet. How? Oh, just now while we were talking. Yeah. How easy was it? Yeah, I guess 6 or 7 just now makes it sound pretty easy, right? So it's really cool, and I love how it does it. Okay, now the next thing. Let me make sure I get to our list of stuff that we're going to do. I didn't close that, did I? Oh, here we are. Open house registration. Okay, so here's where you do the open house registration. So you've done all your ads. Now, by the way, when you do your ads, remember from last week, watch the video if you didn't do it. I recommend, I'm just saying, why not do it this way? Don't worry about my 6 ads over 6 days and all that kind of stuff. Listing blast, send out the listing blast. Okay, so on this one with that property I told you about in Eagle Mountain, I paid $110. I got 1,240 impressions. I got 52 clicks. I received, when it says engaged leads, I actually got 4 leads in my database. I'm not talking about leads that might have said, hey, that sounds cool. These are people that actually filled out the information and said, I want to see this house. Is that not cool? For $110? And so that was an average of $27 per lead. So again, when I say leads, these people actually are now in my database and I'm engaging with them. Okay.
And they're shopping.
And they're shopping, and I know what they're shopping for, and I know what they want, and all that kind of stuff. So is that worth $110 all day long? Plus it's advertising my listing, plus it's advertising me, and I'm getting leads. So all of those things are in there. So you've done that. Now you want to do your open house. So on the open house, in here, you have your, here we go. Down at the bottom, your open house forms. So I click on open house forms. Here's the open house form I did for that house. So basically you just hit add new. And then you pick your open house that you're going to do. It will show all your listings. So you just click on your listing of your open house, and then it puts the whole thing together for you with the picture. You can choose a questionnaire. We've created one for you that you can use, but you can create these yourself. If you want to preview it, it looks like this. Send me the links to the 3D tour, drone video, and information about the community. Remember what I said? If you want people to sign your registration, you have to give them something that they want. Please send me links to the 3D tour, drone video, and information about the community for this property, right? Yes or no? Well, yeah. What's your name? What's your email address? And then it asks, I don't have an agent and may be interested in this house or another in the area. I did add that because you know, I think that's a good question to ask, but they don't have to answer it. It's not required. This right here will actually show the property, if you, the actual picture of that property that's in there. For that, whoops, let me go back to where I was at. Sorry, back here. at your open house forms. Okay. So here, I'll show you how this one looks. So this is what it looks like when you create it. It actually put the front of the house, and you can choose any picture you want, and it kind of fades it. So this is the way I do it, is at the home, I have a stand with a magnetic connection to my iPad. You know, the same iPad I use for my listing presentation. I put it up on that stand, and this is what's up on the iPad, right? Now, before I had them fill out the form here, so they can click here to fill, well, and I still do that. They can click the form here, but a lot of people, because they're going through it, they can just scan their phone. Isn't that cool? They can scan their phone and it'll ask those questions right there in their phone. So they can keep walking through and answer the questions. I put a big sign above it that says what? Please fill out form to receive. What are they going to receive? 3D tour. If you have a neighbor interview, that makes a huge difference. Drone footage and a neighbor interview talking about the community.
So Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
So because you have a list, I'm just going along with it, but because you have a listing, is that why it asked for the 3D tour? Because it doesn't show that on our thing that we fill out. It just says, what's your name, what's your email? Or is it because I don't have a thing?
Because you don't have our survey. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is the survey, but because it doesn't have the 3D tour link to it, is that why that button's not showing up?
No, it's because we created a unique survey that included that, because
Okay.
theirs did not.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
is just the basic.
That's the basic one.
Okay, so
And you can
those
update
on-
it and change it and all that kind of stuff. But you know what's really cool with that? Here, I'll go back and show. Well, let me show you what this looks like first. So here's what the form they're filling out. So this one says, please send me links to the 3D tour, drone video, and information about the community, right? I did not do a neighbor interview, so I just put together quick information, but you can change that kind of stuff. What's your name, et cetera. You know, like what I did before. And then by checking the box, you know, they have to check that to be, you know, to opt in. And then this goes straight into the database. Then I assign it to a smart plan. Guess what the smart plan does? Automatically sends them the 3D tour, the drone video, and the information about the community, right? And then, of course, they're in your database, so AI starts to take over and ask them questions. Is that not cool? So cool. I love this. So I just wanted to show you where you do it. And if you go switch to QR code, it goes back to the QR code here. But after they fill out the form, it'll go back to the screen right here. Yeah. And so the goal for this is to want them wanting to fill it out to get their information. And then it goes to your database. Now it's in your database. You don't have to put it in manually, and it's automatically sending in that information. Okay. Any questions about that?
What if they have an agent and you just want to give them information?
It'll still send in the information, and then hopefully they check the box. They already have an agent, and it lets you know they have an agent. And part of our smart plan considers that if they have an agent, then you're not going to start badgering them about being their agent. Yeah.
Is the agent itself scanning it? It would just say that they're agent. Is that enough?
That's a good question. I like that. We should probably put that as a question. Are you an agent? I was trying to avoid that, but maybe we should. I like that you brought that up, because we get a lot of agents that come through with their clients. They'll register to get that information, but they don't want to be badgered as if they're a buyer. So thanks for bringing that up. So did you, we'll do
We're
that.
doing that open house for someone else, so it's not our listing.
Yeah.
Is there a way to have that? Like, so we can get this happen?
You sure can. And that's the last thing we'll go over, but I'll show you that. Yep, great question. Any other questions online? Any other chats coming through?
Nope.
Okay.
We did have one question, but I reached out to her. She's good.
Okay, perfect.
Just on CMD.
So the next thing I want to show you is the ad options. I just want to go through that really fast just to remind you of it. And then we'll go over hosting and advertising a listing that's not yours. Okay. So I just wanted to remind you, and I kind of did this a little bit. I firmly believe that the listing blast is good enough, in my opinion. If you want to do more, which I still recommend, I want to make sure you understand what those are. And I will still put posts up, but then you can boost those posts. So there's another way to put posts up and boost them. Does that make sense? Okay. So what that is you're going to create a landing page. Now, remember, if you do a landing page, and I've gone through this before, so I'm going to do this really quick. If you do a landing page for one of your properties, it looks different than the landing page that's created by the MLS sheet on your website. But they're both awesome. I mean, honestly, I look at the two and I'm like, wow, this could be engaging. I do like the bigger pictures and the bigger video on the landing page that it creates. So why not create both? Does that make sense? So if I do a landing page, remember, I'm not going to go through this because I already did it before of how to do it, but you just hit add a landing page, right? And it's for listing, right? If I hit this add a landing page, and then, for a seller, I want to do you just do all. It's feature a listing. So it's the first one right there, select template and go through that. It just does it in seconds. And it pulls information from your listing itself. Now, just to kind of go into that last point, if I hit this one right here, and it says property address, you can do it for any property. It does not have to be your listing. Now, if you do this, what do you need to do? Get permission. That's on you. The system is not going to go ask permission for you. That's one thing it doesn't do yet. And we don't want it to because every state's a little bit different and the way you interact should be very personal. Call them up. Exactly. Yeah. But the information is all, to be compliant, where does the information have to come from? The MLS. And it has to be what they provided, not what you provide. You can't rewrite the description. You can't add the pictures or put them in different orders. So it builds the landing page based on how they decided to advertise it. Because that's what compliance means when it comes to listings that aren't yours, is that they control the advertising of that property, not you. You're just promoting their advertisement, and that you can be a buyer agent to help it. Does that make sense? That's the little nuance of that. So you can actually put any property you want. It does not, as long as it's on the MLS, you can do it for any page. So that's one way to do that. Okay. So now once you do your listings, your landing pages, sorry. So let me go back here. So if I have one, you'll come here, and here's my Park City listing. So I click on this. This is what it looks like. So notice the difference. So here's what it looks like as a landing page, right? You see how big the videos are and everything and that. Now, if I go to this as the actual listing page on your website, it looks like this. See the difference? What I like about this in some ways is one, here, I'll try to put them side by, well, I can't really put them side by side. I'll just click back and forth between them. This one, I like the fact that they know they can click on the picture, but it still goes big. So that's good. And then, whoops, I got X out. And the Matterport's right here. So they click on this, it brings them right up to the 3D tour, right? And then right here on the right side, let me move this out of the way. I can X out of that. Or did I just get out of the meeting? Oh, good. Scared me. I don't know why I did that. And then over here, it's like request a tour, in-person, virtual, right? And they can just request a tour. I like this kind of stuff. So I always put this up on my Facebook page and Facebook and LinkedIn. But I'll put the landing page too, because they just have a different look, which is kind of cool. So coming back to this one, I get those great big pictures and I can choose which ones go through here, but it's nice to see them really big like this. Then you have the description. If there's an open house, it shows up right above the description. It'll say open house and what day it is. This one doesn't have one, or you would see it. Then look at how big that video is right here. So they come here and they click on it. This is different because you know what this is? 360 video. This has that video that they can go through it. So I'm walking them through the property. Please do these. The coolest thing ever, because now you're in the video showcasing the property, and it's like you just did a showing for them because they can look around as they go through it. And I carry my camera around with them and I show them the whole place, right? So you've seen this too. So that you get on the single property website. Yes.
On those 360 videos, historically you've like marketed or promoted things like Camtasia. Can they be edited in something like Camtasia?
Not the 360s.
How do you edit them?
You don't. Yeah.
So what you film is what you get.
It is. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Now you can trim from the front and back. Now, if you have, if you know Photoshop and Photoshop Premiere, if you've ever worked with that, you can edit them in there. with a plugin, but that's the only one. But it takes time. Honestly, I found that if you want to stay busy as an agent, the raw stuff works great, and I just use that. So yeah, but you don't have also you know that you can do other videos. Like here's another video here. Oh, why isn't it? Oh, it's, I guess I didn't put it there. I do have another drone video, and then you can do a phone video if you want. You can put different videos on there. So if I edit this page, for example, I go to my listing and I can go to edit from what it creates, because it just pulls it down from the MLS. I'm like, oh, this right here, I'm going to edit it. I have 2 other videos I can add. You can add multiple videos. So you could do your drone video. You can do your 360, or if you did a neighbor interview, you put the neighbor interview in here. You can do all those videos, and it just does them one after the other like that.
As you're in here, question online from Mark Robinette is, can music be added to this?
Yes.
So when they land on the homepage, can you?
Well, you do it in the video. You don't do it in the editing of the page. But when you create the video, you can add music. Now, remember, if you're going to add music to your video, it has to be royalty-free music, or YouTube, Facebook, you know, those kind of places are going to mute it because it's not copyright. But notice that this is a YouTube link. I put in a YouTube link here. So you're not creating video within your landing page. You're uploading your video to YouTube and then putting the link in here. So let me show you that, because that's a good question. If I go to YouTube, so I'll do that right here. I'll go to this video on Turinda. So here's that Park City video, but I also did one. Let me see all my videos here. If I can find it, it's probably a little bit down there. No, I'm not going to go look for it. I'll just say, let's say this video right here was that video. If I copy this video or share the video, you know how you get your get shareable link? So you just go to get shareable link for your video. And then I come over here to my editable, or where I'm editing that page. Oh, I already clicked it right here. I can then put a virtual tour or add a video for this where it says video virtual tour down here. This virtual tour right here is where you put the Matterport link, by the way. But here's the YouTube one, and I just put it right there. And then there's that video. That's how easy it is to put it up there. If you have a YouTube link, you put the YouTube link right here. That makes sense? Okay. So you can put as many videos. If you have a YouTube link that is your neighbor interview, put it there too. Okay. Now, why do you want to put them on YouTube? Not only because it functions this way, but what does YouTube do for you SEO wise? When people do a Google search, guess who owns YouTube? Google. And then your videos show up there too. So that's why you want them up there. Any questions more than that from anybody? And that's how you edit it. So once you've created a landing page, so you've already had your landing page created, then I can come over here to Social Studio. And here's where hopefully you're still doing this. Please, every single Friday, open house weekend plans, enjoy guilt-free window shopping for beautiful homes. Whatever you want to say, do this. This is a long-term nurturing campaign on social media to show your expertise and to give them a reason to engage with you. You might get, let's say it takes you 2 minutes to do this, because that's literally all it takes to do this. I showed you this before. It might take 4 or 5 months and you get a lead. But if you add up the time that it took to do that and a lead comes through and it's $1 million property, it's going to be worth it. Plus you're showing your brand and your offering. Do it, please. Like every Monday should be your properties, or however order you want to do it, that are offering concessions. Your new builds offering concessions, your $1 million properties, your open houses. Remember all those? If you're not doing this, and that's what we're going to start talking about next week, what routine should you do? But if you can do it in seconds instead of hours, you'll do it. Just like the Nordic track, just like, the workout. But anyway, when you come to this right here, and I'm going to create a post, you have an option to create a landing page post, right? What's my landing page? Well, there's the Park City single property website. I go next. Then remember how you can write a good hook and call to action yourself. You can even highlight it, just put bullet points and say generate or rephrase. or summarize or expand or simplify or create a tone. You have these options so AI can help you to make a good hook and call to action. Remember, I don't want to go through all this because we talked about it. That's what you do. Then you can post it. Once you go through it, it will tell you, oh, Instagram requires you to have an image. We're like, wait, why didn't it take this image? Sometimes what it does with some of these, like Instagram, is it wants a picture that's not just coming from the website. It needs a physical picture in there. So you just replace link preview with an image. You can even do it with video, or just take Instagram off, however you want to do that. That make sense? Okay, so this is where you do that. Once you put that in there, you can schedule when it goes out, but it also allows you to post it. Once you've posted it, you get this option, boost, post. This is where you can come in here, spend a little bit of money. The cool thing about this is before, remember when I told you have to pick your audience, you have to do this and do that, and you remember that, right? Yeah. Now, all you have to do is create the button link that's there. Now this one, there's the button link right there. So copy that, paste it right here. I wish it just did that. We're still trying to make it so some of these things are like, well, yeah, why wouldn't you make it the button link, the link you put in there? It'll start doing that for you once we get that worked out. But for now, it just literally takes a second to do that. It says select existing leads. So this is all you're going to do. Do I want to select leads that are in my database? You could if you wanted to. If you have a huge database and you've got them segmented. These are my first-time buyers, and I have a landing pages for first-time buyers. You could do that. Does that make sense? Will you do that? Otherwise, you're just going to say, where's the area? It's basically going to say you say the target area, pick the city that it's in. That's all you have to do. And then what's the duration? When should it start and end if it's for your open house? Hopefully 5 days before your open house, and it ends on the Saturday or whatever that's going to be. And then you say, done. How much do you want to spend? $50. If you're only going to do one ad, I'd spend more. But if you do the listing blast plus you want to do this one, spend $50. Does that make sense what I'm saying here? And then you boost the post and you're done. See how simple that is? So much easier than before, right? For those that have tried to do it the other way. And these again, you don't even have to do this. This is just on top of doing the listing blast. If you just want to do the listing blast and you're done, it works great. I did it with that last property and it worked great. This is just extra if you want to. Does that make sense? Okay. So if I come back, let me come back here to these posts. What else can I post on social media? Basically, I can do a listing here. This is another way I can pick a listing. So I was telling people before that here's your listings that are showing up. You can also here create any listing that you want. So you can do an address of whatever. I mean, you can see all these addresses are coming up. This is any active listing that's on the MLS where you're at. What do you need? Permission. Then you can create a blast for them as well without even having to create a single property website. So you can do a single property website and advertise it, do a listing blast. You can do the whole thing that I showed you for your own listings for anybody else's.
You post every single day.
What we do, and we'll talk about this next week when we talk about routines. This is how, if you have this thing where I have to post every day, it'll drive you nuts, right? So what we do is we have a power hour every morning. That's what we're going to talk about, 1 hour. On Monday, I do all my posts for those landing pages for the week, or I have Brady do it. But it only takes, literally, it takes like, I wish Braden was here. It probably took him 10 minutes. Yeah, it takes him like 10 minutes, right? So his routine is that every Monday when we have this class, he puts out all these posts that are here. And all these posts are with the weekly, like 5 days a week. We have, here's the one that's for the window shopping with the open houses. Here's fantastic homes with reduced price. So these are all the reduced price listings. This one is the luxury homes, so all the $1 million properties. This one is the new builds that are offering concessions, and here's all the other houses offering concessions.
So you do post every day. You do.
But we schedule it.
Right. You schedule.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
You schedule to post every day.
We schedule a post every day.
So every Friday, it's always the same post with here's the open houses.
That's the way we do it because honestly, it just makes it easier. We don't have to think about it.
Sure.
Yeah. And it made sense to us to do the open houses on Friday because that's when they're thinking about going to open houses. Now the others, you do in any order that you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that, you're showing that the boosting of that is like $50 to boost that post. Would you boost every post and be about $1,400 a month?
I love that you asked that question. We're going to talk about that more next week, right? Because today we're trying to finish up on the listing side of it. Now I want you to, what are the routines that you should do, right? That should do what? All your routines should lead to what? New leads, nurturing leads, and putting them under contract, right? Those are the two main things. The third one under transactions. Once they're under transaction, you know how to do that. And we'll talk about that at the very, very end. But yes, we'll talk about, should you boost any of these? Sure. Should you boost every single one every single week? Yeah, if you have the money, and what kind of return are you going to get from it? So that's a great question. But I will tell you, there are 3 different types of lead gen that I'm going to recommend that you do. One of that lead gen is your listings. If you have great listings and you pay for those listing advertisements, what's going to happen? You're going to get more opportunities. So yes, pay for those. Plus you've committed to your client, you're going to pay for them. You're going to get paid, so it justifies the cost. See how that all works out? That all works out easy. Those are great leads to do that you pay for. The second one is purchase leads that you get, right? So I would recommend that you find a lead source that you can purchase from, and that you test you have it set up in a way that you're not wasting those leads. Those type of leads are what? Like type of leads? They're buying, they're in the shopping stage now. Those are great leads to capture because they're ready to go now. But the problem with those are what? Competition. So you've got to be really on top of, that's why the system helps you to do that. Does that make sense? So you're paying for that. That's another paid for one. These type of leads to me are more about branding and creating or generating opportunities from people that are following you on social media that are going to take a longer time period. So typically, to answer your question, I don't boost these. I just post these. But I do pay for the ones that are for my listings, and I pay for the ones that are for open houses that you're doing for someone else. I would do that if you want, but I probably wouldn't boost these. But would it not work? It could possibly work really well. If we haven't talked about this too much, but if your niche is luxury homes, right? How many of you have a niche buyer? We've talked about that, and your niche is luxury homes. Then yes, I would take the luxury home one, put $25 on it once a week. That's $100 budget a month, and see how that goes. You will find that these kind of lead sources are long-term, right? It could take months before you start seeing leads coming in. But if you imagine this, let's say you have a paid lead source and you're getting 2 to 3 good leads a month that are going under contract. Then you have this that's being built over time because the little things you do each day build over time. You get 1 or 2 out of this every single month because of it. And then you have listings that go up there and you're listing those, and then you're getting new buyers and sellers because of that. That's how you get to that 5, 7, 8, 10 deals a month. Does that make sense? The combination of the 3. Does that help make sense on that? Okay. So on these, I typically don't boost them, but you could if it fits your niche or there's some other reason that really helps to facilitate that, but it's all about conversion rates. Okay. Now, here you'll also see there's a zip code blast. We haven't gone into that yet. We'll talk about farming, but zip code blasts are really great for that. We're testing it right now. Then you also have your sphere ads. These sphere ads are really great. They will actually if you have a good database, I highly recommend testing this one out. And we're going to test it out too. We just need to put more leads in there to make it worthwhile. This will basically send out ads that are to everybody in your database, your sphere of influence, but they're really cool ads from what I can see here, but it's like strengthen connections, stay consistently engaged, but it actually uses some of the AI of what these people want in that area. So we haven't fully tested it, but we're definitely going to be testing this one. Then there are local service ads. This goes along too with your location that you're serving locally. And then you have, I haven't tried the Lofty Bloom light. It's just in beta testing right now, but we're going through all this lead gen stuff. You also have buyer lead gen and seller lead gen and remarketing ads. There's so much here. It's crazy. But the key for all this is to know if I'm going to put money in this machine, it needs to spit out 10 times, in terms of what you're going to make. So we're helping you to test that, but these are really good ways to do that. Okay. Now, the very last thing I wanted to show you today is, oh no, I did that. Hosting a live tour. The live tour. I didn't do that part of it. So I want to show you too, that when you go to these landing pages and you add a new landing page, one of the options that you have, I love these. You can do them for your listing or somebody else's. How many of you would like to do an open house and not have to go to the house and set everything up? Anybody think that's a good idea? That's what these are. You can actually start hosting live tours. If you get permission from the seller, instead of saying, hey, can I go to your house and put up a bunch of signs and, go in your house, and then now they're freaking out because they think you're going to bring a video production team. Did you hear that? Anybody hear that? Oh, you didn't? Oh, like the DRE here in Utah is really cracking down. It actually got really bad in San Diego and the California market. You had these buyer agents that were actually asking agents that had listings, hey, can I, show your, they wouldn't even tell them. They just they do a showing, and they bring a whole production company and they do a whole film and do a video, and then they'd advertise it. And so they cracked down on it. Anyway, what I think is really cool about this is that you have two templates: host a live tour template, which is really cool. And you can do this with not just your listings, but other people's listings. And this live one it goes live and it does a countdown and it does some really cool stuff. I haven't tested this one yet, but I'm going to test it. But I want you to, for those that have asked, since you asked, how do I do a listing that's not mine? Get their permission. And then you can do this one where you can actually advertise, and I would pay for this one, is advertise that you're going to do, maybe you pick $1 million property and you got permission to do that. And they've got a 3D tour at that $1 million property. And you walk people through it and you measure spaces and do all those things that in my opinion, I would pick homes that have 3D tours and drone footage and all those things. And then I would do a live tour of that property or an advertised one of that, and then go and then show them like it was an open house and not even have to go to the house. Does that sound cool? What I'm saying? Does everyone understand that? Any questions about that part of it? Okay. Whew. I know we went through a lot of stuff. We're done on the listing side of things for now. I hope that you feel good about being able to, once you capture a listing and you get them to agree with you, right? Or even before that, you send them a home report and then you send them a CMA and you get them engaged and interested in you because of everything set up here. Then they go under agreement with you. Then you go and do your home tour and give them a listing report. Hopefully you understand what I'm talking about when I say all those things. And then when they're signed with you and they come up with a really good listing price, and they're going to help you with the presentation, and then you're going to get people there because of the way you're advertising this way, your houses will sell quickly. They'll sell for more money, and you'll generate more deals because of that. This system is amazing for all those things. Let me find, oh, there we go. I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions from anybody out there that are attending virtually or anybody in here about managing your listings? We're all good? Ready to go home? Yeah.
One. On the social studio, does Lofty allow to connect to personal accounts, or is it only business?
Only business. Yeah, you can't advertise on personal accounts.
Okay.
So it only is a business. However, as I mentioned before, once you put something on your business page, and I'll even, well, I won't go back, but once you put something on your business page, you can share it and like it as the individual, right? That's what I recommend that you do. So if you have a huge personal following, please, you can even tag yourself on that listing, right? On that app. Does that answer your question, Mark?
Yep, that's perfect. Thanks.
Good, great question. Any other questions or comments? So if you haven't been doing this, folks, add people to your database. Like, make that your number one goal right now. Add those people, add those people. When you have someone in there, if they have a home, what should they be getting? A home report for sure. If they should also be getting a market report. What's the market report? What's the market like in that area that they're in? Send it to everybody there, right? If they are a first-time buyer, put in a property alert. You've been doing that. Everybody in your database should be getting monthly or, these drips of real estate information that's in there. Please do that. Questions beyond that? No. You guys have a wonderful week. See you next week. Remember, next week, please don't miss this. This is where we get into the routines. And those routines are what's going to grow your business. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next week.